John, what's the purpose of picking an A team?
Well, the purpose of picking an A team is to give exposure to players, particularly players who are certainly of national interest, against an international team, and also as a recognition and a bit of an indicator to them that we have a real and genuine interest in them for higher honours, international honours, and hopefully it's an encouragement and gives them a boost in their general attitude towards the game and seeking higher honours.
What do you look for when you're picking an Australian? What do you look for when you're picking an Australian?
Well, we look for good cricketers. We look for good cricketers and good cricketers who have got a significant upside to them. So, I mean, Andrew McDonald, we've selected him as captain. I mean, he's an experienced man as captain. He played a few test matches about 3 years ago, 4 test matches 3 years ago. He's been in very good form recently. And we basically wanted to say to him, you know, you're not off the radar, you're a player of real interest to us, and we'd like you to captain this side that has a lot of young players.
Tim Payne 2 years ago was probably the next in line behind Brad Haddin. He had a terrible injury, and now Matthew Wade's come through. Is his selection a sign of him being back in the thoughts of the selectors?
Yes, it is, yeah. I mean, Tim Payne was highly regarded before he was injured. He came back through the Australia A tour to England and did well. He's keeping well at the MCG at the moment. So it's an indicator to him that he's back on the radar.
How important are these games heading into the Ashes next year?
Look, I think they're important games. I think one exciting thing about next weekend is we've got 3 Sheffield Shield fixtures and this Australia A game. So there are going to be 77 young men striving to do as well as they can, A, for their teams, and B, to impress the selectors. And those playing for Australia A will have a very testing time against the South African attack, but those playing against Victoria will have an equally demanding experience facing Pattinson, Siddle and Mackay. And those playing against New South Wales will be playing against Hazelwood, Bollinger, Copeland. So it's all, the batsmen will need to be on their toes.
You've got 4 genuine all-rounders in this squad. Is that something that the Australian Test team is perhaps missing, apart from Shane?
Well, I mean, cricket teams are very dependent on all-rounders. A cricket team, if you've got one of your batters who's also a genuine bowler. So we are very, very keen to develop all-rounders. Now, in a sense, we've thrown Glenn Maxwell in at the deep end. We were intending to pick John Holland, but he's unfortunately been injured. So Glenn Maxwell, we want him to be a genuine all-rounder. We want him to develop his spin bowling. We've put him in this side as the spin bowler and virtually said to him, well, get on with it. You need to develop.
You've only got one sort of out-and-out fast bowler in Coulter Nile. Australia's pace stocks look pretty healthy this year or this summer.
Yeah, they most certainly are. And I mean, we contemplated putting Josh Hazelwood in the side because we're very impressed with Josh, and we didn't because we're keen to keep him up our sleeve. So if there were to be an injury or two, you know, with our fast bowlers later in the series, Josh is very much on our radar, and we'd prefer to have him up our sleeve than have the South Africans have a look at him.
Right. Rob Quiney had a stellar year last year, just missed out on the A tour to England, but he's in this team.
Yeah, we're very keen to acknowledge Rob's, his performances. He's a very good player and a very good team man, and missed out on the Australia A tour last time by a whisker. He was on standby, and he's got his opportunity in that environment this time, and we wish him well.
How impressed have you been with Philip Hughes' form since moving to South Australia?
Look, he's had 3 or 4 very good knocks. He got a 90 and an 80 in Queensland on a bowler-friendly wicket, which was very good. He got another 90 in the one-day game the other day, and has played very well. In this particular Shield match that's being played at the moment, he hasn't done so well, but he did well with Worcestershire, and he's 23 years of age, and we really hope that he comes on and really develops over the next year or 2.
Where does this leave Usman Khawaja in the rankings?
Well, Usman played very well up in Brisbane. I mean, we didn't feel it necessary to get Usman into this side because he's had plenty of exposure within the Australian ranks. And this time last year he was on tour with the Australian team in South Africa and did very well in the last test match there when he got a 60 in the second innings. So he's still very much on the radar. He's a good player, Usman.
Is Steve Smith in that boat, the same boat as Phil Hughes and Usman Khawaja, that have tasted Test international experience and now they're sort of coming back through?
Yes, and I think Steve Smith is a significantly improved player. He's a better batsman now than he was 12 months ago, and he's working hard. And we want him to know that he's still very much on our radar, and particularly in the ODI form.
Okay, and the omission of Mitch Marsh, did that have anything to do with his recent...
Yes, it did, yes. I mean, a week ago when we had a squad of 15 or 16 we were contemplating, Mitch was in that. But due to these circumstances, these recent circumstances, we've decided to omit him. And that's very much the Wackers, it's for them to deal with it. But we've omitted him for that reason here. And then once all of this is over, we move on. So he'll come back strongly into contention when all of this settles down. He's a very good player, very promising player. And as a young man, he's been impulsive, and we've probably all been there. But I'm sure he'll learn and we'll move on from that.